Hey guys, what's up? Demaria here, and I'm coming to you with this week's Gospel Project lesson intro. Last week, Dane talked about Jacob and Esau and how Jacob deceived his father in order to get the blessing based off the advice of his mother. And so today, I want to just come to you and talk to you about God's love. It was so funny because right before this, I was asked a question, Demaria, are you qualified to talk about love? And part of me was offended, not really, but it's a twofold answer to that question from me, and it's that yes, I am qualified to talk about love because I've been given Christ's love to give to others. But at the same time, my love is flawed as a human being, and so there have been times I've made mistakes or disappointed someone when it came to loving them. And so today we're going to talk about how Jacob, right after deceiving his father, he left his hometown, and based off the advice of his mother, he was told to flee. And so he took that advice and he fled away from home. And while he was away working, he ran into this young woman named Rachel, who he had a fond interest in, and he just couldn't. It was like the love of his life. And so he went to Rachel's father and asked, how can I take your daughter's hand in marriage? And Laban, Rachel's father, actually they came to an agreement, and Laban told Jacob, if you work for 7 years for me, you can have my daughter's hand in marriage. So at the end of that 7 years, Jacob went to Laban and he asked for Rachel's hand in marriage, and he thought he was giving Rachel, but actually he was giving Rachel's sister to marry. And so he was deceived by Laban. After working 7 years, the deceiver was deceived and was given Leah's hand in marriage. And he found that out after they were married. He didn't even know because he just didn't know. And it's a crazy thing, but I would advise you to read it for yourself and see how Jacob was fooled by Laban in this. But at the end of that, after Jacob found this out, he went to Laban and he confronted him about this. And Laban said, you know what? If you work another 7 years, I promise you can have Rachel's hand in marriage instead of Leah's. And so I just want to stop right there for a second and ask you, how Leah may ask you the question, how do you think Leah felt in this situation? She probably felt unloved and unworthy because she was the firstborn daughter, and so she was supposed to be married before Rachel ever was married. And so finally she gets her husband. Her husband doesn't appreciate her, he doesn't love her, and almost demeans her worth because of his favoritism, which he probably got from his parents who played favoritism too. He showed favoritism over Leah for Rachel. And so Jacob, having loved Rachel so much, he decided and agreed to work another 7 years. And so I just want to talk to you. Jacob's love of favoritism was flawed, but even though it was deep and intense for Rachel, and he loved her so much that he was willing to work 14 years just to marry Rachel. And so he was eventually given Rachel's hand in marriage. But at the end of the day, you see that his love was flawed. And so I want to talk to you about the Christ connection point, and this is where we'll end, is that us as human beings, our love is flawed. We can't love people to the extent of how we think we can love them. But if we know Christ, we can be examples of Christ's love for us because he was the greatest example. It says, while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Who has greater love than this, than to lay down one's life for a friend? Christ dying for us showed us the perfect and most greatest example of what love is. And so even though we are flawed, we can be an extension of God's love to other people because we have been given that same love. So you're going to dive deeper into this conversation with your leaders in your room. I see you guys and hope you have a great day.